Our hearts go out to all the New Yorkers who have been affected by the devastating impact of Hurricane Sandy. And in the finest tradition of the Legal Aid Society, our staff, all levels of our staff, have been out in the communities providing emergency help, disaster relief assistance to New Yorkers when they need our help the most. We've been in the courts keeping the justice system operating even as the storm was dying down. Immediately, we're in the evacuation centers, in the disaster centers, in the temporary hotels that were set up for New Yorkers who needed help. And we ourselves set up a special hotline so affected New Yorkers could get help immediately. And we pressed into service a mobile justice unit that we had planned to unveil later in November because we needed to be in the remote parts of the city to deliver our services to people who couldn't get to us. In Rockaway, in Staten Island, in Red Hook, in Lower Manhattan, in Coney Island. You name the affected community, our staff was there providing the help that people needed.
You know, hundreds and hundreds of people out there in the communities that hit hard by the storm who never thought they were going to need the services of legal aid found themselves in need of help with FEMA applications, emergency food stamp applications, and all kinds of other legal problems.
And we were providing the disaster relief assistance even as our own offices were affected by the storm, by the flooding in Lower Manhattan. And 400 staff were displaced from our offices and had to be relocated overnight. And in all of our efforts to provide disaster help to New Yorkers who needed our help, our staff has been working together with pro bono volunteers who have provided tremendous assistance. And a key component of our disaster relief effort has been the partnership with our sustaining law firms who stepped up, as they always do, to work together with our staff to provide the critical help that New Yorkers need.
There's a lot of talk about first responders. Legal aid is, the legal business is first responders.
And help is sorely needed. Much of Coney Island, for example, continues to be in the dark and in the cold.
On Neptune Avenue, we found dozens of people filling out applications at this Legal Aid Society truck, where volunteers and lawmakers are trying to get people who are on public assistance the help they need.
So many New Yorkers have been in desperate straits, and it's only when they came to legal aid that they've been able to get the help that they need to unwind documents that they were told to sign by government agencies or by contractors.
They had all these items in storage, and you guys don't have the original contract with you right now, right?
And legal aid's been able to provide the kind of assistance that people need to rebuild their lives.
But then they sent them this as if, I guess, they're trying to say that this was their contract. And it says executed on 6/22, but you said this is not your signature?
Basically, people walked in and we help them in every issues they have.
By me doing this, you're gonna do what after this? What's gonna happen?
I'm gonna get information from you. We have people apply for FEMA right here in the bus. We're using our computer system to help them apply right here. We're gonna be with the Far Rockaway community for a long time to come. And I'm so glad that the Legal Aid Society is helping me to help my friends and the community. Thank you.
You could see the pain in their eyes. They didn't know what to do, where to start. And when they seen the bus arrive, Legal Aid Society, they knew there was going to be help. Because at a time such as Hurricane Sandy, so many things was taken away from people, and it really hurt them. It hurt them bad. And you know, driving up to these locations was painful. You know, you see houses flooded, furniture in the street. I mean, I've never seen nothing like that in my life. It was heartbreaking. However, knowing that we was going to help made a difference. It made all the difference.
My name is Grantley Hunt, and I'm a veteran. I live on 420 Beach 48th Street. And the night of the Sandy, we were told to evacuate, but in 40 years I've been living there, we never had a problem with water. So during the night, the water came up about 4.5 feet in the house.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the extent of damage that was caused by Hurricane Sandy to your household?
The damage is still there. I've gotten a contractor. He did a pretty good job on the front part of the house, but in the back part he wouldn't touch because we don't have enough money to fix it. We tried to get other help, and eventually FEMA came around, disaster relief came around. But even though FEMA had came by, it wasn't until December, January before we got any financial help at all. The only entity that really extended themselves to us was you guys, Legal Aid. But at least you guys are here for whatever legal help we can get, and I think you provided that. And we appreciate that.
Once again, I think the government has made this a much more complicated process than it needs to be, which is particularly disappointing given the crisis that people were in. So one of the problems, for instance, is in food stamps. If you look at the pure forms themselves, the application is 6 pages, the instructions are 14 to 16 pages, and for people who are not that sophisticated and used to dealing with these kinds of materials, I think it is very ineffective. Working with the Legal Aid Society, I'm going to help put together a program to go back to the government to recommend some real systemic change to the way all of this is handled.
Well, this is another sad example of the incredible devastation that occurred in Coney Island, which has an enormous population and a very impoverished population. And from 15 to 20 feet of water surged in. So in effect, every single solitary one of these houses for at least a mile perimeter were gutted finally.
FEMA did not want to come out here. They had to threaten them to come out here into this community. They didn't want to come out here to help the people.
This generator is an example of really an emblematic of what people went through. People had no services whatsoever. That meant not only that they didn't have electricity, they didn't have water, they didn't have toilets.
Before I got out, the lights just completely went out. When I looked out the window, every part of Coney Island was covered with water, and the water was up to the windowsill.
It's now taking them more than 6 months to get you a refrigerator and a stove.
I just got the refrigerator and stove. The cabinets just came last week. Legal Aid have done a lot compared to what Housing Court would have done. I would have still sitting here with no position, with no stove and no refrigerator if I worked at Housing Court. I wouldn't have got nothing done if I wouldn't have took a step to come to Legal Aid Society to see Ms. Rosenberg.
My colleagues at Legal Aid really rose to the challenges of both in terms of advocacy with city agencies, actual litigation that occurred for individuals, and direct services to try to facilitate people getting back a hold on their lives and being able to move forward.
A Midland Beach man says he and his family cannot get back into their Sandy-damaged home because their landlord refuses to make the necessary repairs.
Unfortunately, in many cases, people tried to take advantage of very vulnerable New Yorkers, and Legal Aid had to step in to make sure that injustices didn't occur.
Amin Al-Haddad says this home he rents on Slater Boulevard looks the same now as it did the day after Sandy hit.
The landlord should be repairing the house. A city agency, Housing Preservation and Development, has placed numerous violations based on the fact that these repairs have not been done.
We have nowhere to go. I mean, we have nowhere to go.
And that's the problem confronting our frontline staff every day. There are countless New Yorkers who need our help, and they're turning to us in their desperate hour of need. Before the storm, we could only help 1 out of every 9 New Yorkers who came to us because of lack of resources. And the situation has only become more dire as a result of the storm. But with your help, we can make a difference in the lives of these children and adults who need our help and your help more than ever.